All right, music fans, welcome back. It is Dave, the Real Music Observer, observing real music in real time for real people just like you right there, and yours truly right here. On an upcoming episode of Sammy Hagar's Access TV roadshow thing that he does, he's interviewing Neal Schon, the guitar player from Journey, and sort of offhandedly, in this little snippet that I watched, Sammy Hagar looks at Neal Schon and says, "Hey man, you're the best shredder I've ever heard." And that's kind of a holy crap Batman statement from a guy who's hung out with Eddie Van Halen and Joe Satriani, just to name a couple of guys. Of course, he spent time with Neal back in the early 1980s. The band Hagar, Schon, Aronson, and Shreve. Another nice little side project that Neal Schon got involved with, and Sammy Hagar sang lead for. And a great band. They should have done maybe another album. Maybe there's still time. Don't know. But Sammy says, "Hey man, can you do some of that shredding?" And Neal demonstrates, and Sammy's like, "Yeah, that's what I'm talking about." And they're talking back and forth, and Neal's like, "I could go faster, but it just kind of sounds like, sort of, flies buzzing around my head really fast, and it doesn't make a lot of sense." And then they kind of end it that way. But man, oh man, pretty interesting admission by Sammy Hagar. Now look, am I saying that Sammy says that Neal is the greatest guitar player he's ever heard? Because it's kind of a little bit of a play on words here. He says shredder. Shredding is a technique, I guess. But typically, when you say that guy can shred, you're giving him a very high compliment. And I think Sammy meant what he said. And I think Neal, what's great about Neal is he's a soulful player. He's an interesting player. Sammy says, "Hey, you could play this an hour straight and not play the same combination of notes." And he just looks at it and he marvels at it. So I'm just loving the fact that these two guys are still around, still making music, still talking about music, and still enthusiastic about music. And it's a nice little contrast to what was kind of going on in the band Journey prior to this, where it was more or less just focused on one person and their life story and so forth, which maybe it's interesting, but the problem I have is it kind of takes away from this music, which continues to be, very important to a lot of people. And for me, as a music fan, I love watching these guys interact and talk. And I'll send this video out to some of those Journey people that are coming at me and saying, "I wish Neal would, just knock off these long guitar solos and, just play the hits, just keep the solos to a minimum." And by the way, Jonathan Cain is getting beat up for playing keyboard solos, as fans, I guess, are ADD. I don't know. I'm just trying to figure it out. When I went to concerts, 30, 40 years ago, I expected, in fact, I was looking forward to hearing these guys play their instruments, and everybody had a solo, so it wasn't like a big deal. But nowadays, apparently, get us in, get us out, get us back out to the car. Of course, you got Def Leppard out there too, so you got to go through all of their stuff, and quite frankly, maybe it's just too much for some people. But in any event, Neal Schon, Sammy Hagar. Sammy says Neal is the best shredder he's ever heard. That's a pretty awesome compliment coming from the Red Rocker himself. All right, I'm done. I'll be back soon. Hang in there. I'll be back. Don't worry. See you then.